Alright, let me paint this picture for you because you probably wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it with your own eyes. You ever witness something so bold, so out of line, it just lights a fuse inside you? Yeah, that was me that afternoon, watching this pack of teenagers full of swagger. Not a care in the world, one of them actually snarled, "Watch it, old man," and slammed his shoulder into Arthur Green. Sent him stumbling right off the curb, smack into traffic, cars screeching, horns blaring 90 years old, a Marine veteran almost getting flattened just because some kids thought it'd be funny. Let me tell you, that moment it wasn't fear running through Arthur's veins. It was that old cold rage, the kind you get when you see something so damn wrong you just can't let it slide. You know what I mean? Those kids, they just laugh and high-fived each other like they'd won something, like humiliating an old man was the highlight of their day. People watched, some scowled, but nobody did much. Arthur, he just gathered himself, looked steady, but you could see in his eyes that he'd had enough. He wasn't going to fight them, wasn't that kind of guy. Not anymore. But what they didn't know, what nobody on that sidewalk knew, was that Arthur Green, frail as he looked, had the backbone of a man who'd crawled through hell and come out the other side World War II, Korea, Vietnam. He wasn't just a Marine. He was the Marine. Now, let me back up a SEC Arthur. He lived alone in this tiny apartment, walls covered with faded pictures and medals he never wore. His only real pleasure was a walk to the bakery for a single eclair, his little treat for surviving another week. He didn't ask for much, certainly not to be tripped and shoved by a bunch of kids who barely knew what day it was, let alone what respect meant. Usually, he gave those teenagers a wide berth. They'd made themselves the self-appointed kings of that bench outside the bakery, legs sprawled out, forcing everyone else into the gutter. Arthur tried to be polite. "Excuse me, lads, could I trouble you to let an old soldier pass?" That's all he said. And the ringleader, some tall kid with a backwards cap and the kind of smirk that makes you want to wash your hands, she just sneered. "Old soldier, huh? Were you 100? The others laughed. Then he stretched his legs out even further and told Arthur to go find another route, called him Grandpa, told him maybe he should just go home and take a nap. Arthur didn't snap, not outward-lied, learn control, discipline. But that kind of disrespect, it's a slow burn. He tried to edge around, and that's when the kid tripped him, shoved his shoulder, and Arthur almost went down in front of the cars. It was close, too close. That's when I think something in Arthur snapped, not in a wild, angry way, but in that deep, resolved kind of way. He picked himself up. A kind lady hurried over to help, but he just thanked her, said he was fine, even if his hip and his dignity ached. But he was more than just hurt. He was done. Done with swallowing disrespect. Done with pretending not to notice. Now, here's where the story takes a turn. Arthur didn't go after the teens. She knew their kind, knew the alley they liked to hide in behind the old warehouse. But he also knew someone else. The Marine Corps recruiting station was just 2 blocks away, and he'd met the gunny in charge, a guy named Miller, tough as they come and with a soft spot for old vets. Arthur didn't have Miller's cell, but he had the recruiting office. So, with hands steady as a rock, he called in, told the duty sergeant what happened, gave the alley's location, and said it plain. They disrespected the Corps, gunny, and they put one of its own in harm's way for a cheap laugh. Yeah, that's all he needed to say. Minutes later, the quiet street got real interesting. Out of nowhere, you saw the Marines in their crisp uniforms, some still in utilities, 8 of them, marching like a silent storm led by Gunny Miller himself. They didn't run, they just covered ground with that Marine Corps energy that says, "Move or get moved." 2 blocked off the alley entrance. The other 6, with Miller, slipped in Cedino yelling, just that low, authoritative voice you only hear in boot camp or a war zone. Arthur watched from a bench, close enough to see, not close enough to get involved. Inside that alley, the laughter stopped real quick. You could hear Miller's voice, low, cutting, no nonsense, explaining, no, educating about respect, about honor, about what happens when you mess with the wrong Marine, even if he's 90 and walks with a cane. No violence, just a masterclass in humility. After maybe 5 minutes, those kids came out one by one, all the swagger gone. They weren't running, but they sure weren't sticking around, pale, shaken, looking like they'd just seen their own future flash before their eyes. Some of them looked like they might cry. That's the Marine Corps for no need for fists when you can reach the soul. Gunny Miller and his squad emerged next. All business, but you could tell they'd enjoyed putting the fear of God and the Marine Corps into those punks. Miller spotted Arthur, walked over, and snapped a perfect salute. Master Gunnery Sergeant Green, "Sir, the situation's been addressed. Those young men have received a thorough orientation on honor, courage, and commitment with an emphasis on respecting their elders." Arthur stood, returned the salute, maybe a little unsteady but with more pride than pain now. "Thank you, Gunny, and thank your Marines for me." Miller nodded. "We take care of our own. Always." The Marines marched off as quickly as they came, leaving the street quieter but not the same. The folks who'd seen what happened now whispered about it. The legend of the alleyway counseling spread fast. The teens? They turned into model citizens, at least for a while. Walked wide around old folks, started muttering sir and ma'am. Funny how fast a little humility sets in. Arthur? He finally got that éclair. When he walked past the recruiting office now, there was always a salute waiting, and the look between him and the Marines said everything Semper Fi isn't just a motto, it's a promise. The kind that doesn't fade with age or shrink with hardship or get pushed off the curb by some punk kid. It endures. And maybe that's the real story, not about revenge, but about how respect gets enforced quietly, effectively, in a way that leaves no bruises but a lesson that lasts. Some lines you just don't cross. Ever. Now, let me ask you, do you think those kids deserved what they got? Was that real justice, or did it go too far? Drop your take below. Community, respect, and justice are three messy, complicated things. So where do you stand?